Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode of the Weekly Crusaders. My name is Sean Wasserkrug, and as always, is Brian Michaels. And today we are talking about two movies that came out during the week of August 27th to September 2nd. These are two movies that one is a film that I think, if I can't remember, if it either won or was in my top 3 for most surprising films of the year when it came out. And then a movie that I had been wanting to see since I first saw the trailers 12 years ago, but then never got around to seeing it until this week. Yeah, it's been 12 years. This movie doesn't feel that old, but it is. I will have something to say about that when we actually talk about that movie. Before we jump in, Brian, what are your thoughts on the two movies this week?
Well, your movie is one I had seen. I don't think I've watched since then, though. So that was a fun one to revisit. Which I didn't. The movie itself, the plot, I didn't love as much as the idea of it. But I'll get into that. The movie I picked for you, I know last week I said there was a comedy that you were either going to think was really funny or you were going to hate it. Turns out you hated it. This week, I was pretty much 100% sure it was one that's more in your wheelhouse.
Yeah. Well, we're going to start with my film first. Like I said, this is a movie that I went in with little to zero expectations because I've seen these kinds of movies before, usually in a horror format. And they hadn't really worked. Like, it's like, oh, the very first one they did of it worked, and then everyone after that just felt cheap. And this one, I thought was going to be the same way, but blew me away with its execution. And I am talking about the 2008 thriller Searching. Searching came out August 31st, 2018, had a budget of $880,000, had a weekend opening of $6.06 million. It had made $388,000 in smaller releases. It had an opening weekend ranking of number 4, it was its highest ranking, and it had finished box office of $75.46 million, $26.02 million domestic, and $49.44 million international. This movie made bank back. It cost less than $1 million to make, and made almost $76 million. That is a huge investment in terms of profitability. But yeah, with Searching, what was the first one? Was it Unfriended?
There have been some really small ones before that, like nothing theatrical, but Unfriended was kind of the first major one, and then there was Open Windows.
And then there was one.
There was a webcam called Radar, I believe. It was like through somebody's webcam, they were stalking her or something like that.
Yeah, and then there was this one where like they all did a seance, and like they like awoke a ghost, and then the ghost like kept appearing on each one of their webcams and killing them all and stuff.
Was that just Unfriended Dark Web? The sequel?
No. It was not Unfriended or Unfriended Dark Web. This was an entirely different one. I can't remember what it was called, but it was actually effective for what it was to a point. No, Unfriended was like they brought someone into like the group chat, and it was like this girl who like had killed herself on like a Facebook video or some shit like that. And then Dark Web was just fucking stupid. But this whole like the movie is all done on the computer screen kind of thing. When it first happened, it was like, oh, this is unique. This is new and different, but it wore really fast. So when we got to this film Searching, the one thing that made me check it out was John Cho, who I love. I've always loved John Cho. I think he's a criminally underrated actor. I think, he went from the MILF guy from American Pie to what he is now, which I think a lot of people still don't give him the recognition he deserves. But John Cho is fantastic as an actor, especially when you let him act. And I still think Cowboy Bebop was as it was. I thought he was actually really great in it. But this film, basically the synopsis of Searching is that, it's him and his daughter. You get this almost kind of like an Up beginning with like his wife, his daughter, and going through the years, you find out that his wife gets lymphoma and she passes away, and like him and his daughter they're not estranged. They live together, but he doesn't know who his daughter is anymore and all this kind of stuff. But she goes missing one night, and he basically, the whole movie is him trying to figure out where his daughter is, how to find out, kind of basically him being a detective to a point, and try to find where his daughter is. Is she alive? Where did she go? Did she run away? Was she taken? All that kind of stuff. And the trailer for it didn't really sell me on anything because I've seen this kind of movie before, except in a horror, this aesthetic. But the thriller aspect of it, I was intrigued enough by it just because it was John Cho. And I was pleasantly surprised by how effective this movie worked, how the mystery of it worked really well. Deborah Messing was also really solid in the film. It also did the one thing that I can't stand about social media today, and that's just the fakeness of people and how certain people love to just talk shit who don't know shit about anything. Like how halfway through the film people wanted to make him out to be the killer and stuff like that, and him reading like the comment sections and the message boards and all this kind of stuff, and going on Reddit, which you should never go on Reddit to read anything about yourself. But it's the utilization of that, and like I said, the mystery of it and all the stuff that he pulls off in this film. I said it's effective as hell, and I think John Cho did fantastic, because John Cho really, for the most part, outside of Deborah Messing and his brother in the movie, he has to act everything on his own. It is a one-man show for about 80% of this film, and John Cho excels at that. And I think, like I said, the execution of the software and the way the movie is shot and everything about this movie works, to me, the best it's ever done, to a point. Now, like you said, this movie, I think you thought it was fine. You didn't love it. And it's one of those movies, like, for me, it's the surprising factor of how well it did what it did that makes me love it, I think, a lot more than what most people do. But I think this movie's great. What are your thoughts?
No, I did think it was a good movie. It's because, especially, I mean, even if you just told it in a straightforward way, a regular, not the
without it being on the camera.
Yeah, they refer to it as screen life, as I guess could become the term for it. If it was just told as a traditional movie, it still would have been an interesting story. Just John Cho trying to find out what happened to his daughter, investigating all these things, and that would have been good, largely because of John Cho's performance. Yes, I agree. But to do it in this way, which like I said, had been done a few times before then on kind of a smaller scale. This is kind of the biggest movie, I think, at least up to that point, that had used it. And they used it very well. I mean, there's a lot of things you have to suspend disbelief, like, why would he have his camera running, filming him while he's just having a conversation across the room on a phone? And they find different weird reasons to have things on camera and things like that. But you just overlook that because the style, it was unique. It's the kind of thing that you really can't do that much because there's only so much you can do with it. Like, they tried to come up with a sequel, Missing, which is fine.
I will say this: I had never watched it, and then I watched it last night after watching Searching, because I was like, you know what? I actually heard good things about Missing. Let's check it out. Not as good as this, but I think still really damn good story.
Yeah, it's not bad. It comes down to the problem of what made this film what it was the uniqueness of kind of its approach to it.
Yeah.
And when you watch that, you're kind of like, well, it's just doing that again, that kind of thing.
And they tried to go way bigger with it. And
yeah.
It got to the point where, while it still worked, it did get a little unbelievable.
Yeah, I still enjoyed it for what it was.
I enjoyed it too. I gave it 4 stars.
Yeah. But this movie, it's I like the story. I like John Cho is good. I will say, as a parent, it kind of hits you a little differently, because I'm watching this movie and thinking, how well do I know my kid and what she's getting into? And if she disappeared, would I know her friends? Would I, my mind starts thinking all those kind of things. Like, what if this happened to me? Would I be able to track her down? All this kind of stuff. So it kind of hits you on another level, especially when, after, she's disappeared, and like say, starts going on like message boards and things and Facebook, whatever, and people are making comments like, she was with me because she loves that D. And
that douchebag guy. I'm honestly surprised. When I heard that he broke that kid's jaw, I was like, I would have done worse.
I went to the same. I would track that dude down.
The movie would have stopped because I wouldn't have been at home to be on the computer, because I would have been in jail. You would have had camera. You would have had the
security camera watching you instead.
Somebody just sitting there going, he deserved it. He deserved it. Justin Bieber douche.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Justin Bieber content.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a thing. I think it does go on a little bit longer than it needs to, and they have a lot of red herrings they throw in.
Even that, it's only an hour 40. It's not even that long.
Yeah, but I mean, there's like,
but it's because you're stuck in that.
Because it's that style, yeah.
Yeah, it does feel long, but it's really not.
I mean, there's the things get like when they get with his brother, and there's some suspicions about him that would be really creepy, and that's gets a little weird. But it's still, I thought it was very well done. Yeah, and the thing about this movie is watching him investigate the whole thing this way. It reminds me so much of, I think it was after this, kind of this trend of like the True Story podcast and the BuzzFeed Unsolved and things, where people like basically try to do that. They find these things, they try to go on and basically investigate via the internet and see if we can solve this crime. And then it becomes these, true crime podcasts and things. And so it kind of, it got in before that trend. Because I think if this came out now, you'd be like, oh, another one of these. But I really liked it at the time.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's incredibly effective, and you have a very anal retentive dad to a point. Because like when he's like doing like the finds all her Facebook friends, makes all their pictures, and then writes all this stuff. I'm like, I mean, granted, I'm not a parent, and if I had, I probably would have done the same thing. But I was like, oh my god, he is going in such in-depth detail.
If I'm searching for my missing daughter, I'm going in.
No, I get it. Trust me, I'm not knocking it. It was like you're watching, like, holy shit, this would have taken hours and hours and hours. It was like, what happened to his job? Like, did he get time? Hopefully, he still got a job at the end of this, because like with like him missing work. I mean, it was only a week, so he probably had time off. But it's like then he got he's all over the internet about punching this kid and stuff. And you're thinking, and now he's like being like not necessarily suspected, because he was never suspected of anything. It was just comment boards and shit. But it was just one of those things where it's like I hope his job is fine, And also,
do we even know what he does?
I don't know, because we only saw him do like a conference call thing. He looked like he was working in a cubicle kind of deal, but well enough to a point that he could give his daughter $100 a week for piano lessons, because that was an expensive ass piano teacher. Like, my God. But it was but that was the one thing too, is at the end of the movie, like you can kind of assume, but they kind of left you with a cliffhanger, like you didn't find out if she got accepted to the college thing, because it just stayed on pending. Like, I kept expecting her to like go back and hit it again, say accepted, and then have it end like that.
It reminded me of the end of the Social Network, where he just kept hitting refresh on that friend request to his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, it's like, you're not going to give us just that little like, it's a little thing, but come on, like, just give us that.
I hope she didn't make it. She was skipping piano lessons and pocketing the money.
But there was reasons for it, though. But I mean, it opens up that world of, like you said, you think your kid, you think the ins and outs of them, and you don't. You're like, oh, they got all these friends, but it's like, no, they're not really their friends. They're social media friends, like people that, we maybe had a 5-minute conversation one day, and they became friends with me, or they asked for a friend request, and I didn't want to be an asshole, so I accepted them. But they don't know me. They don't know anything about me. Or there's someone I work with.
Until she was presumed dead, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, she was my best friend.
Yes, which I see that shit all the time, where people's like, oh my God, like, I'm so like, shut the fuck up.
You never talk. You talk shit about that person all the time.
Yeah, it's like, don't act like, like there's like this one person who had this like, that I know, who had this like abusive parent, and she hated his guts, and then he died, and then all of a sudden she was like, oh, I can't imagine a world without him. I was like, you wished him dead like every day I knew you. Like, don't act now like
you can imagine a better world without him.
Yeah, I was like, granted, it is what it is, but it's just like, I'm sorry, but you literally wished him dead every day that we known each other. Like, don't all of a sudden act like you give a shit now, kind of thing. But you have all these fake people, and like there's the one guy who's like, I just thought I needed to do it, it just felt right. It's like, oh, and then you have like, grandma's so proud of you in the comments. And then you got the douchebags, like that one guy where he's like, oh, she's been with me, that money was for her pimp, and all this kind of shit. And it's just like, those trolls. Well, that troll got fucked up. That troll deserved exactly what he fucking got. And you even have that like fucking house mom who just wanted to stir the pot on shit, which started the whole trend that they thought that he might have been involved in it. But it really kind of showed the ugly side of social media, because I honestly have thought about that sometimes. Like, it was like, oh, if something had happened to me, like my parents who are not good with social media, how would they let Brian know? Hey, Sean's dead. You're not going to have a show anymore, or something like that. Or how are you going to be able to reach the people that actually are important to me, know about my whereabouts, or something that's gone wrong, because they ain't going to know, or stuff like that. And it's weird. And, you got all these people who are like, oh, we're not really friends with her. She eats lunch by herself. And then they're all like, we pray for her and all this kind of crap. Like, I almost felt like John Cho's character, if he saw that shit, he'd be responding like, y'all fucking don't even know her. Like, he'd be like one of those that just be constantly like on his soapbox, just, well, if she did have friends, she don't have any friends now, because you ain't gonna be like, no, fuck those people. They were not here for you. They're fake as shit. But like I said, the utilization of it, and even the big twist at the end of it, I thought worked for the most part, but also was kind of like unbelievable to a point. The whole mother. I don't want to say the spoil. I don't want to say what it is, just in case, because this movie's still kind of newish to a point. But it's just like as they're describing what actually happened, it's like plausible, definitely plausible, but also how fast it got picked up so quickly. Because like he literally goes from like here to here, and then like in like what 30 minutes, bam, done. I was like, whoa, like how they quickly flipped on that one person so fast. And I was like, oh, damn, like, were they already suspecting this person? Because I expected this to be like, oh, this is going to go another 20 minutes. It's
like, try and convince them,
yeah. It's like you thought it was going to be this whole other big thing. And it's like, oh, no, like, oh, no, we buy it. We got you. That's legit what happened. We're there for you. It's like, holy crap, like, that was a quick-ass turnaround. Whereas Missing, I think he did that better. I think Missing had a better way to do I think the twist worked better, because when that twist happens in Missing, even I was going, oh shit, and you know, because I honestly wasn't expecting that, and I think that they utilized it better to a point, but I think the acting is better in searching for it. Which, granted, it's a sequel; they had more to work on. They knew what to work on, what to make better. But the performances outside of Storm Reed weren't there compared to John Cho in this one. But I really enjoyed this movie. I think this is like the third time I've seen it since 2018. And each time I watch it, I'm just like, I should hate this movie because of what it is. I don't like these kinds of movies, but god damn, this movie worked. This movie was effective. And, you know, not going to lie, the first 10 minutes, better than Up. Because I cared about this fucking family. This was no manipulated tears. Like when they get that one moment where he types in "mom comes home," and then he moves it down, and then he just deletes it. You're just like, fuck, god damn it. You know, it's like, dude, that all you're doing is just.
It's very well done. Yeah,
it's very well done.
That's the thing is, I've seen a lot of people try to do the screen life things, and especially in horror movies, it's fairly simple to do. You're just watching webcams and weird things are happening, whatever.
Yeah.
But in this one, when you're trying to convey things like that, you're telling a story with something as simple as, you know, moving something, or, you know, rescheduling something.
Calendar dates and schedules, yeah.
And like that moment, that's the one that actually stood out to me, is when his mom comes home and they deleted it. It's like, oh, they're just with that, they're able to convey it. That's this format used correctly.
And just even the other moments where like he's like, where he's asking his like, I don't know any of her friends. Well, you know who does? And then he has to log into his wife's account, and you're just like, oh shit, this is gonna suck for him, knowing that he probably hasn't been in here since she's died, and then you get that one, like I said, utilization of technology. He logs into it and it says, you haven't checked your virus in 469 or 649 days. It's like,
thank you for reminding me exactly how long my wife's been dead.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know how long she's been dead. And it's just like, like it's little things like that. It's like that works so beautifully well in the worst way, but like so incredibly well done. And what I also loved about it too, and granted, you can chalk this up to the makeup artist or whatever, I loved how weighed down John Cho looked visually from day one to the end. Like you could just see in his face, like just like the lack of sleep and just the worriness and the weatherness of his face through it all. Even Deborah Messing, to the point, because she's trying to solve the case among other things, and you're seeing it on her face. And I love that it didn't feel like John Cho still looked like John Cho from day one. That John Cho looked like he was exhausted, distraught, and just like internally, you know, fighting with himself and just, you know, hating everything that's happening. I loved the visualness of how he looked throughout the movie. I thought it was beautifully well done. And even, like I said, in Missing, they did the same thing with Storm Reed. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, especially after watching Missing last night and going, oh, this was actually really good as well, that if they're like creating this own little like searching Missing verse, I'll watch a third one of these as long as it's effective like this, like these two movies. I'll check it out. Because honestly, I'll watch these thriller kind of things before I probably watch another one of these. It's like a horror, because the horror ones are just so cheesy and cliche and corny. And
Well, it becomes the same thing as like when the found footage first hit. You know, found footage. The first couple of them, you're like, okay, this is original. It's and now it just became, oh, here's a cheap way for us to make a horror film,
yeah,
and most of them were not very good. And then so this came out, and there was there were a couple horror films. A couple of them were decent, and then but now that it's become a large thing in horror films because oh, this is a cheap way to make a horror film, and it's like yeah, most of those aren't very good. So
yeah, and then even what I did love, and granted this is not in Searching, so I'm kind of tagging on to Missing real quick, is I loved the Easter eggs in Missing from Searching. I don't know if you caught them or not.
I remember noticing them at the time. I don't know what they were, but I remember noticing some.
Yes. Like the TV anchor, or it might have been a web anchor in Missing, is the fake friend who was crying and Searching.
Oh, so I wouldn't notice that.
Then there was like when they were online and there's like these two teenage kids talking. It was one of the guys that John Cho was. I don't think he was talking to, but it's when he goes on that Chatterbait or whatever the hell it's called. Mm-hmm. It was him talking about his shirt and shit. It's not Chatterbait. I don't know what it's called. It's a video chat thing. I can't remember what it's called.
Sean just revealed something about his life.
But it was one of those. It was one of the guys that was in Missing, and then like because like in the beginning of Missing, they show a. They turned this into like the events of Searching was turned into a show or an episode of a show.
That's right, I remember that.
Yeah, it was called was it Unfiction is what the show is called. And what I loved is that the actor that's playing John Cho's character, he's John Choi. The actor's John Choi, and the Deborah Messing character is it was like Deidre Mousy, or it was something. It was close to Messing, so I love that like they got the actors and actress. It was like almost John Cho and Deborah Messing. It was like the little things like that. I was like, I like the tip of the hat. That's funny to me. That's funny. Like, good job on that. Like I said, that's in Missing. That's not in Searching. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. It's something that, like I said, I probably wouldn't have like paid much attention to because, like I said, I don't like these kind of films because I feel like they're cheap ploys. But this one and Missing are very effective and utilized very well. So if you were clearly not trying to check one of these movies out because of it, strongly urge you to check these out because they are really, really well done. Missing is on Netflix. Searching, I don't think is on anything right now. I think you have to rent it, but it's well worth the $2 rental. Like I said, I had it from, I have the Blu-ray of it because I knew I'd want to watch this again at some point. So I have it like on my Vudu and all that shit. But Searching is definitely something to check out, to at least experience it, because it's actually a really well worth ride, even if it is a little long, even at an hour 40. Next, we're going to go to Brian's movie. Like I said, this is a movie that I saw a trailer for back in, was like 2010 probably. Came out in 2011. I had always wanted to see it, but it was like an indie movie, so it didn't really get it released in theaters in my area, or any areas based on.
Did it come out in theaters at all? I don't even know.
It did. No, it did. The numbers are not great. But it's one of those movies that's like, oh, I'll watch it when it comes out, and then like I never watched it, and I always planned to and never did. But Brian finally got me to watch it. And it is 2011's comedy, A Good Old-Fashioned Orgy. Good Old-Fashioned Orgy came out September 2nd, 2011, had a budget of $5 million, had a weekend opening of 117,564. It was 42nd its opening weekend, its highest ranking, and had a finished box office of $1.37 million, 200,227 domestic, 1.17 million international. This is definitely the definition of an indie comedy. Like, it got released in theaters. It was not meant to be a comedy released in theaters to a point. But it is your movie, Brian, so I'm going to let you start it off with A Good Old-Fashioned Orgy.
Yeah, I was just looking at its widest release was 143 theaters. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Good Old-Fashioned Orgy is a movie. I didn't realize I was 12 years old. Oh my God, I'm old.
Yeah.
But it's a story of a group of 30-year-old friends who they've known each other since high school, and they get together regularly. I don't know if it's every weekend or whatever to basically throw these big parties. Jason Sudeikis is the main star of it. His dad owns this house out in the middle of nowhere, whatever, this big house, and he throws these giant parties. It's like, they usually have themes, like the redneck theme or the things like that. But they find out that his dad is selling the house, so they want to have one last hurrah on Labor Day weekend. They decide, instead of having this massive party, they end up deciding to have just the friends, an orgy, a good old fashioned orgy. And of course, all of them are kind of reluctant. They all kind of eventually come around to the idea because they think it'll be weird and awkward, doing that kind of thing with their friends. They all end up having this orgy, and it kind of tests some of the relationships, strengthens some of the relationships. Things come out. But this is first and foremost a comedy. First of all, you have the cast, which is led by Jason Sudeikis, who honestly is one of my favorite SNL alumni. Actually, I would honestly take Jason Sudeikis over Will Ferrell movies or even most Bill Murray movies, things like that. He's just somebody who I really like his brand of comedy and his sense of humor. You also have Leslie Bibb, Lindsay Sloan, Lake Bell, Michelle Borth, Nick Kroll, Tyler Labine, Martin Starr, Will Forte, Lucy Punch, Dave Koechner. You have Lynn Shay, who you see behind Sean. He has his Something About Mary dog there. So we know her from that. But this has a great cast to it. Like I said, it wasn't anything that came out theatrical. So most people, unless you caught it on video or got, and that really has to be word of mouth, kind of people spreading like I do, make Sean watch this thing to really enjoy it. Because this is a hilarious movie. I think this movie is so much fun. The cast top to bottom is great. Obviously, Jason Sudeikis. Tyler Labine, I don't understand how he didn't have a bigger career.
He's on TV now every week. He's on,
and he's been on TV. He was on I think Reaper was the first place I saw him, and then he's done some other things. Of course, he does like Tucker and Dale, things like that. But I always thought he'd break out more because he has a very kind of Jack Black energy.
He's so good. He's so good.
And he's just a ton of fun, and you can tell he's kind of guy who like improvs a lot too. But he was good. He was like at his peak, I think, in this movie. I will say this group of friends and this movie, what it did, it made me wish I had hotter friends, because I'm like,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I'm watching this thinking, man, I would love to be a part of that group of people there, because any one of those women,
yes,
get it.
Michelle Borth. I only knew at the time from Hawaii 5-0.
I only knew her from this, and she's my number one pick there.
She is fucking gorgeous. Yeah. And I'm sorry, nothing against Leslie Bibb, but I'm sorry. I'm taking Michelle.
And Leslie Bibb's character, honestly, I felt was like so superfluous. It's like, and even towards the end of the movie, it's like, okay, whatever. Until she comes back at the end, but for a while, it's just like, okay, whatever, she's gone now.
It felt so unnecessary at the end of the movie.
Yeah, just have her with Michelle Borth. But anyway,
like, dude, what is wrong with you?
But yeah, all these beautiful women. Of course, all these mostly schlubby guys. So it's like, you got to suspend disbelief. It's the Adam Sandler syndrome.
You know what's bad when Sudeikis looks like the fucking George Clooney of the group. not that Sudeikis is an unattractive dude. The dude got freaking
Olivia Cook.
I almost said Olivia Munn. I was like, that's not right. Olivia Wilde. He's not an ugly guy by any means, but compared to Tyler Labine and freaking
Nick Kroll and Martin Starr.
Yeah, Martin Starr. It's like he's George Clooney in the group.
Yeah, no, but seriously, I watched this. I'm thinking, man, I would love to be a part of this. But and I think my friends who I had at that time, like, yeah, no, I wouldn't want to be.
I had that group in like high school, but definitely not at that age. No.
Yeah, but I thought it was done really well, because it could have been, American Pie style, sex comedy kind of thing, but it's not. It's got a little bit more depth to it in terms of the character relationships and stuff. And I think they really played up very well, like the awkwardness of how awkward it would really be to be trying to actually do something like this with people who you've been lifelong friends with. Now, a couple of them like had brief relationships or things in the past, things like that.
Here and there, yeah.
But for the most part, they never thought of each other that way. And then just jump right into this thing where you're like with all of them, and it's just like, first of all, to even see anybody naked would be awkward, but then to be doing things with them, it's like, I thought that they were able to play that very well, both kind of building up to it, how kind of people were awkward to even come around to the idea of it, and then when it was time to try and get it started, and they all kind of didn't know how to do that, and then eventually, once things start happening, obviously they let loose, and obviously lots of alcohol helped with that.
Yes.
But I thought that instead of just going all out to play up that awkwardness and kind of make it more realistic, I guess, is the way I'm looking at it. But But yeah, it was good. Other than that, the only thing that stood out to me is the focus on the BlackBerry. I guess I should have known this movie was 12 years old
Because
when
the
they kept focusing
BlackBerry.
on his BlackBerry. And of course, having just seen the movie BlackBerry, I'm like, yeah, that was a long time ago, wasn't it? Oh, I will say, well, I'll let you say your thoughts first.
No, finish what you're gonna say.
I was just gonna say one of my favorite scenes is they're gonna organize this orgy, but they don't really know how
I
to
know
do
exactly where you're going with this. I was gonna bring it up myself.
so they decide to go see this man that somebody knows, played by Dave
It's his
Koechner.
uncle. It's Tyler Bean's uncle, isn't it?
Is it his uncle?
I thought it was his uncle.
But yeah, he knows him, and he goes to see him where they apparently regularly have these orgies at this Fred's Beds, basically this mattress and bed store, and of course they're using all the beds, and they're just walking around this orgy with people just doing all kinds of things to each other, and of course he sees like Lynn Shay, their realtors, trying to sell their house there and things like that. But Dave Koechner is so much fun in this role.
Count me down. Your mother's a good woman.
Don't look at her. Look at me. Don't look at her. Look at me. Did he just say your mother's a good woman?
So good. He's in two scenes, and he's so fucking good in this movie.
But that was probably my favorite scene of the movie. But yeah, so your thoughts?
Koechner is so good in this movie. I was laughing so hard for him in this movie. I agree with you on Sudeikis. Here's what's funny, because obviously huge Ted Lasso fan, and that's what 90% of the people are going to know Jason Sudeikis from now is Ted Lasso. Mm-hmm. I love not necessarily Jason Sudeikis when he's in big budget films. I love his indie shit. When Jason Sudeikis does indie movies, you got this, Sleeping with Other People with Alison Brie, which I fucking adore that film. And then Colossal with Anne Hathaway, which is a performance from him I never knew I'd ever see, and I never knew he was capable of. Which, if you guys have never seen Colossal, it's a weird movie. His performance in that is haunting, and I mean that in the best.
And there was one more he did with Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones. It wasn't as good as these, but
I don't know if I've seen this one. I
thought he did a really good job in it, though.
I don't know them, but he's so good when he has like these movies, which are like indie films with a good cast. I love these films. Sudeikis is so good at these kinds of movies, and I actually got confused in the beginning of the movie. I really did, because the way the movie starts, it kind of shows them like, I thought, like, oh, they're grown up and they're living, adult lives. It's boring, mundane, because we see like Nick Kroll at his job and they're all getting picked up. Kind of like, I feel like almost like it was an Indian Summer kind of thing, where they're all like older and all that stuff. And then they go to the party, the redneck party. I thought this was I thought it was a flashback. I thought it was a flashback to them in college. You're like, let's see what they were like. And then they wake up the next day. I'm like, oh, this is all like present day. Because I got confused there for the first part of it, because I thought it was just like them all picking each other up and they're all going to meet for something. And then you got this fight because they're all wearing wigs and shit. So I was like, oh, damn, Sudeikis has got long hair. I didn't realize it was a wig at first. But yeah, it's just I was like, oh wait, yeah, this is 12 years ago. Sudeikis technically, I guess, would be like considered a college kid in this, because it's like I don't consider Sudeikis that young in this movie in 2011. So like that's why I thought it was a flashback at first, because I don't consider Sudeikis like in his early to mid 20s in 2011. Like I figured
they're also about 30 years old at this point. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's just they act like they're college kids, or they act like they just got out of college, kind of thing.
Honestly, me and my friends still act like this. So I mean, well, not exactly like this.
If I was probably with
my,
but
we're still this immature. We did not become these stuffy businessmen.
I mean, we're both fucking immature. It's fine. I'd hate to see what it'd be like if Brian and I and the rest of our group were actually all in person together. I would hate to see what happened that night. It'd probably be something like this without the sex orgy, but. It's like I said, I love the cat. Sudeikis is a great leading man in these kinds of films. In the big budget stuff, I don't think they've ever really given him a real good main lead outside of like Horrible Bosses, but that was a trio lead.
We're the Millers. I'll give him that one. We're the Millers.
What's that?
We're the Millers. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I'll give him We're the Millers.
Other than that, he usually is best when he shows up kind of in great supporting roles, like in Booksmart or something like that.
Exactly. And of course, like I was going to bring up Tyler Bean, but you already did. I fucking love this guy so much. If you guys, first off, I'm going to name some things. A lot of people are going to know him from Tucker and Dale. I think Tucker and Dale's a little overrated, personally, but the TV show Reaper, it lasted one season. That's the first thing I ever saw him in. He's fucking great in that. Breaking In, which is where Brian knows him from. He's great in that. The Hulu show Deadbeat had 3 seasons. Fucking great in that. Now he's on New Amsterdam. He's playing more of a dramatic role for that. He's actually lost a lot of weight. Good for him. I fucking love that guy. He's one of those actors that is criminally underrated. I adore him in his comedy. I just love his. He's a guy that I would just love to hang out with. He's just a dude that I would just. It's not even that performance thing. It's like, dude, you're like Jack Black. I mean, you'd be a ball just to hang out with and just chill with. I would love to hang out with Tyler Levine. The female cast, Leslie Bibb, like I said, she's pretty kind of pointless in this movie. Like, she's there, but I don't think she was needed in this movie at all. Lake Bell is great in this film. Michelle Borth, I already said she's fucking gorgeous in this movie. I loved her character in this. Lindsay Sloan, I normally am kind of like, I actually loved her in this. Nick Kroll's just great. I love Nick Kroll. He plays this particular kind of character so fucking well. And I love it. Martin Starr. In the parts that he's in, I think he's fine. I don't. He's
kind of playing the same character Martin Starr always plays, but he's good at it. He's good at it. So.
He is. He knows his niche. And then even Will Forte, the small parts.
Will Forte and Lucy Punch, I like them because they're playing the married couple who they were part of this group of friends, but they're married and they have a kid now, and everybody's like, you guys can't be a part of it. That'd be weird. I think you can't do that. But they're like, no, we want to be part of this. Damn it, you can't do this without us.
You ruined our wedding. It's one of those things where it's like, I wish that they had utilized them more.
Yeah.
But when we did get them, they were great. They were really great. And Lynn Shay. Like, you thought she was playing this one role, and then you find out this extra layer to her character, and it just makes it that much better. I also wish we maybe would have gotten one more scene with Don Johnson, because you don't cast Don Johnson.
Yeah, he's barely in this movie, too.
He's in one scene. I would have loved to have seen Don Johnson one more time in this. I do also...
I was honestly, the first time I saw this movie, I was waiting for him to, walk in the middle of the orchard.
Oh, I was waiting for something like that, too.
So, there's no way they'd cast Don Johnson for one scene.
Exactly, but Don Johnson's not as big as we think he is. It's one of those. This felt very much to a point like Van Wilder-esque once they had all graduated college, because you have this guy who I don't think we ever found out if Sudeikis even has a job in this movie. Does he have a job?
He starts out. He's in the conference room and he kind of edges his way out in the middle of the meeting.
Yeah, it's like I don't know.
We don't know what his job is exactly.
I don't know what his job is. He's like Chandler from Friends.
Some kind of office movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's like I loved these friends. I loved that they could basically fucking tell each other off and hurt their feelings, but then know that it's not out of malice. It's just they have right before the orgy happens, they literally just went at each other's throats and went for the jugular on this shit. But then within 15 minutes they were just playing Connect 4 and having fun, and just because they know that's hey, I know we said some fucked up things, but we're best friends, and hey, my bad, let's make up.
My bad,
let's fuck. Yeah, well, I mean, to a point, yeah. even the I'm gonna call it the chicken scene without saying what it is. I thought I was is this really happening? Is this a dream sequence? And it's oh no, this is really happening. And even the one scene with the guys sitting on the couch, Dick Kroll was I don't know if I'm gonna say this, but I need to go take a break and check the Yankee score. It was just what are you doing? But I loved watching this group together, and I don't know. I feel like there was not that there was something missing. I just felt like there needed to be, because everything is just about getting to this party. Mm-hmm. Or getting to this point. I felt like there needed to be a little more story between the cast, if that makes any sense. Because it was just you had Sudeikis trying to get with Leslie Bibb, but even then that's not really hit hard enough. You've got, I'm blanking on the character name. Sue really wants to get with Sudeikis' character. Lake Bell's got this boyfriend thing, but it really kind of is chalked up.
She just dumped him, so she's the one single one there, basically, yeah.
Yeah, you got Lindsay Sloan's character who's kind of doing this thing where she lost we don't know how big she was, but she lost a lot of weight, so she's still not comfortable in her own skin. There's all these little trail of stories, but I feel like they all kind of needed to either have more or just have a few more scenes that tighten them up, so it wasn't just about them trying to get to this party. Because I felt like everyone was just kind of waiting around for this party to happen. And then you have Sudeikis and the Leslie Bibb thing. And I just felt like it needed to be a little more. And that's just me nitpicking, wanting more, because I loved these characters. So I wanted to see more. And we didn't get it. But what we did get was great. And I enjoyed it. I just wanted more of these people because I enjoyed watching them. Enough to the point that these people who are basically in their 30s can go on the front lawn and just play wiffle ball and just have fun playing it. Like I said, I knew I was gonna like this movie. I would have been so pissed if this movie sucked, because I had chalked it. I didn't chalk it up like it was gonna be the funniest thing ever, but I had chalked this movie up into my brain of, I'm gonna enjoy this. One, because I fucking love Jason Sudeikis. Outside of even Ted Lasso, I love him. I love Tyler Labine. There's so many people I love in this movie. Granted, there are movies, you and I have both had a part of it, where we watch these movies and we're like, oh, it can't fail because the cast is so great, and then the movie fucking sucks. A lot of times they do, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was going into this, I'm like, please don't suck. And I knew I knew we were fine once we got to David Koechner. Because that scene, like, I wasn't like laughing, but I was enjoying it. And that scene, I was just dying laughing the whole way through. And I was like, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And also, I got a real kick when Will Forte and his wife showed up to the party and they're dressed as... I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to spoil. But when they showed up, I was like, it's not.
That makes more sense. Oh,
it's God. It's not even an original joke. It's not original at all. But for some reason, I wasn't prepared for it, and I fucking loved it even more.
Just Forte. Forte sells it. He's good.
Forte's so good. Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I was happy I finally got to watch it. I won't say it exceeded my expectations, but it matched the expectations that I expected out of it. And that is, an indie film starring Jason Sudeikis should be a home run, and it was a home run. And Michelle, my God, dude. Like, that's the only thing I would have changed, is that, like, you had that little nugget with Leslie Bibb at the end where you could have had a back door out. And they only did that just that way you wouldn't be like, oh, well, at the end of the movie, he still go with her, but he still did all this shit. Like, they only did that just so that way he could start over with Bibb and not have it be a big thing at the end. Which I would have like, just move on from that and stay with Sue, because Sue, yeah, that dude, what the hell, man? like it's not that Leslie Bibb is ugly, because she's gorgeous, but
I like Bibb, but honestly, I'd probably take any of the women at the orgy over her.
Sue, my God, and also Lake Bell, even to a point, Lake Bell, and even Lizzie Sloan,
Lake Bell and Sue together,
and Lizzie Sloan, because she was in that too, because they said girl and girl and girl. Yeah, like I said, I had fun with it. And even though we know we wanted it, they showed enough without giving away too much, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, it was enough of a tease to maybe go, oh, just move your arm just a little bit. It's like, nope, you're not going to, because I know who the actresses are. They're not going to do it, but good enough to at least give me what I got out of this to a point. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. Anything else you want to add?
Nope. It's not available free anywhere, but it's worth a rental.
It's definitely worth the rental. And I'm happy that it was one of those things where it's like, I wasn't sure if I should buy it because I hadn't watched it yet, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy it. If I don't like it, oh well. And I was like, at the end of it, I was like, I'm glad I bought it. I'm glad I bought it.
Good.
Anyway, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, get the follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up, or out right now, we have our fall movie preview, where we talk about the remaining films coming out for the rest of the year, as well as we have our end of summer review, where we talk about our predictions for the summer that we really, really sucked at, as well as what we thought about the movies that came out during the summer overall. That is out on the channel right now. Equalizer 3 is in theaters right now. We have not seen it. Brian will probably see it before I will. But we will be back again next week for our latest episode of the Weekly Crusaders, where we will talk about 2 movies that came out during that week in movie history. My film is a film that Brian has never seen. Finally, I'm making him watch a movie that he hasn't seen, which usually always worries me because he never seems to like the movies as much as I like them.
It's
And I feel like
we actually both picked horror movies this week.
yes,
Me one
yes,
you haven't seen, and you one I haven't seen. Which I
yeah.
actually have been meaning to watch this movie, but when we scheduled it a long time ago, I'm like, nope, I'm gonna wait until then to watch it.
These are both films that we had both intended to watch last year for the Halloween special, and we didn't watch. So we're finally going to be watching these movies now. Mine is, in my opinion, and I know I'm going to put this on a pedestal and it's not going to reach Brian's expectations. I'm fully expecting Brian to be like, it's okay, I don't love it. This is my favorite exorcism movie ever. It's one of my favorite horror films ever. And I'm going to have a massive love story about how much I fucking love this movie next week. So be ready for that. Brian's film, I remember watching the trailer last year for the horror show. Brian, describe it so that way it has a better understanding than what I'm going to say.
It is a horror comedy. It's basically, I don't want to say too much. Horror meets The Office. Let's just say with that.
Office or Office Space?
Office Space. Well, kind of both.
So horror meets The Office or Office Space. You guys decide. Mine's more mainstream. His is more of an indie, much like a good old-fashioned orgy. So many of you probably haven't heard of his film, like I hadn't, but I had heard of the cast, and that is where I think it's really going to excel for me. My film definitely went out wide release, so you guys probably have heard of my movie at some point, but figure out what those movies are. Good luck, because we gave you literally nothing to go off of on those films. But until next time, we are the Movie Crusaders, and in case we don't see you, go watch some movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.